The city sky was crying that night. Rain fell in endless sheets, washing the streets in silver light. Elena Rivera stood in front of the tall iron gates of the steel mansion, holding a thin umbrella that could not protect her from the cold. Her hands trembled, not from the rain, but from fear. Her brother was dying. The hospital wanted money, and Adrian Steele, the man she was about to meet, was her last chance. The guards looked her up and down, their expressions bored. One of them finally said, "You're late." She nodded silently. Her shoes were soaked, her heart heavier than the clouds above. When the gates opened, she stepped inside, walking through a garden where roses looked perfect but lifeless. Everything about the mansion screamed wealth and loneliness. Inside, the air was colder. The house smelled of new money and old sorrow. At the end of a long hallway, she saw him, Adrian Steele. He sat behind a wide glass desk, the glow of city lights falling across his sharp face. His wheelchair was sleek, black, and silent. He didn't look up when she entered. "You made me wait," he said in a deep voice, calm, emotionless. I came as fast as I could, Mr. Steele," Elena stammered. Now he turned toward her. His eyes were cold gray, like metal that had forgotten warmth. For a second, she forgot how to breathe. "Do you know why you're here?" he asked. She hesitated. "You said you had a business proposal." He gave a half-smile, thin and cruel. "Business, yes. Marriage, actually." Her eyes widened. "Marriage?" He leaned forward slightly, voice sharp but smooth. "You need money. I need an image. You will be my wife on paper for 1 year. In return, your brother's surgery is paid in full, and you'll receive a generous settlement when it's over." The words hit like thunder. "That's insane," she whispered. "No," he said quietly. "It's efficient." Elena stared at him. The richest man in the city, trapped in a chair he didn't deserve, asking a stranger to marry him for show. "Why me?" she asked finally. Adrian tilted his head slightly, studying her. "You're not from my world. You're not chasing headlines or power. You're ordinary." His voice softened for a heartbeat. "And people believe ordinary." She looked at the contract on his desk. Thick paper, gold letters. A deal written in ink and desperation. "What happens if I say no?" she asked. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Then your brother dies waiting for a surgery you can't afford. The world will move on. I will too." Her heart cracked at his words. She turned away for a moment, blinking fast. "You think everything can be bought?" Adrian's tone turned colder. "It usually can." The room fell silent. The only sound was the rain tapping the windows like a heartbeat. Elena finally walked toward the desk, her steps small but steady. "If I agree," she said softly, "what do you expect from me? Appear with me in public. Pretend to love me when cameras are around. Stay out of my way when they're not." He paused. "And never ever fall in love with me." She let out a small, nervous laugh. "That won't be a problem." Adrian's eyes locked on hers. "Good, because love ruins contracts." For a moment, they just looked at each other. His gaze wasn't cruel anymore, just tired, like a man who had seen too much of everything. Elena reached for the pen. Her fingers trembled as she signed her name beside his. When she finished, Adrian exhaled slowly, his jaw tight. "Congratulations," he said softly. "You're now Mrs. Steele." The words felt heavy, too real. As she turned to leave, his voice stopped her again. "Elena." She froze. It was the first time he had said her name. He looked at her, eyes shadowed with something she couldn't read. "Don't try to fix me. I'm not broken. I'm finished." Her throat tightened. "I didn't come to fix you," she said quietly. "I just came to survive." Adrian looked away, his reflection faint in the dark window. "Survival," he murmured, almost to himself. "That's what I used to call living too." Elena stepped out into the hall. Her heart was racing, her palms cold. Every door she passed looked too clean, too perfect. Like this house had never known laughter. Outside, the rain had slowed to a mist. She stood on the marble steps, staring up at the sky. For a moment, she felt like crying. But she couldn't. Not tonight. As her cab pulled away from the mansion, Adrian sat in silence by the window, the city lights flickering against his face. He reached into a drawer and took out an old photograph, him standing tall, smiling beside a woman with soft brown eyes. She looked just like Elena. His voice was low, almost a whisper. "You think I can't want you like this?" He closed his eyes, pain shadowing every line of his face. "You have no idea how wrong you are." The morning after the fake wedding felt colder than winter. Sunlight tried to enter through the tall windows of the steel mansion, but even light seemed afraid to touch its silence. Elena sat at the edge of the massive bed, wearing a soft white dress the housekeeper had laid out for her. Everything around her was beautiful. Gold curtains, crystal vases, silk pillows, but she felt like a guest inside a dream she didn't belong to. She had become Mrs. Steele overnight, a title that sounded rich but felt empty. From the hallway came the faint hum of Adrian's electric wheelchair. It was smooth, powerful, like him. When he entered the room, the world seemed to pause for a second. "Good morning," she said softly. Adrian didn't reply right away. His sharp eyes scanned the room, then settled on her. "You're up early." "I couldn't sleep," she admitted. "This place, it's too quiet." "Silence helps me think," he said simply, rolling past her toward the window. Elena looked at his back, broad, strong, yet locked forever in that chair. There was something haunting about the way he stared at the city below, as if he could see every move the world made but could no longer join it. "Do you miss it?" she asked suddenly. He turned his head slightly. "Miss what?" "Walking, running, living normally." Adrian's lips twitched. Normal is overrated. But his voice carried pain that betrayed his words. Elena stood and walked closer. "I didn't mean to upset you." "You didn't," he said, though his hands tightened on the metal arms of the chair. Then, as if to change the subject, he added, "The staff will take you shopping today. You'll need clothes suitable for the role. The media will follow us soon." She frowned. "The role? You mean your wife?" His gaze flickered. "My perfect wife." The word stung, though she couldn't explain why. She wanted to ask what kind of man could speak so coldly about something as fragile as marriage. But then she saw his hands again. One hand steady, the other trembling faintly. Something inside her softened. Later that day, she explored the mansion alone. Every room felt like a museum, pictures of business events, awards, silver trophies. But no family photos. No laughter. In the study, she found a locked cabinet with a single photograph on top. Adrian, standing, smiling beside a woman with kind eyes. The same woman from the picture he had held last night. Elena stared at it for a long time. The woman looked like her. Same brown hair, same quiet smile. "Do not touch that." Adrian's voice made her jump. He was in the doorway, his expression unreadable. "I'm sorry," she said quickly. "I was just looking for ghosts?" He cut in. His tone was sharp, but his eyes looked tired. "You remind me of her." "That's not a compliment." Elena froze. Who was she? He turned his chair toward the window again. "Someone who thought she could save me." She was wrong. The silence stretched. Elena wanted to ask more, but she could see the wall he had built around his heart. High, solid, and cold. "I'm not her," Elena said quietly. "I know," he replied. "That's why I chose you." His words should have sounded cruel, but they only left her confused. That night, a dinner was set in the grand hall. The long table could seat 20 people, but only 2 sat there, him at one end, her at the other. Silver cutlery, soft music, candlelight, everything perfect, everything lonely. Elena tried to break the silence. "You don't talk much, do you?" Adrian looked up from his plate. "Talking is overrated." "You keep saying that," she said with a small smile. "What isn't overrated then?" He studied her for a moment, then said quietly, "Control." Her smile faded. "That sounds lonely." "It's safer than pain." They ate in silence after that. When she stood to leave, his voice stopped her. "Do you pity me, Elena?" She turned, meeting his eyes. "No. I pity the man who hides behind money and walls when what he really needs is someone to care." For a long time, Adrian said nothing. Then he let out a dry, humorless laugh. "Care is dangerous. It makes you weak. Or human," she said softly. Their eyes locked, his full of scars, hers full of questions. When she left the dining room, Adrian remained alone, staring into his glass of wine. His reflection trembled in the red liquid like a bleeding heart. He whispered to himself, "She doesn't understand. I'm already broken beyond repair." In her room upstairs, Elena sat by the window, looking at the city lights. She thought of the woman in the photo. Who was she? A lover? A wife? The reason he had become so cold? And why did he look at her, Elena Rivera, like she was a ghost that refused to fade? As thunder rolled outside, both of them sat alone in different rooms of the same house, haunted by different kinds of loneliness. Adrian closed his eyes, memories flooding his mind. The crash, the screams, the fire, the moment everything he was turned into what he became. And for the first time in years, he whispered a name into the dark. It wasn't Elena's, but it sounded heartbreakingly close. The mansion came alive that evening for the first time in months. Lights filled every corner. Expensive cars rolled up the driveway one after another. Guests in glittering clothes walked through the glass doors, whispering about the same thing, Adrian Steele's sudden marriage. Elena stood at the top of the staircase, wearing a dark blue gown that shimmered under the lights. She looked beautiful, nervous, and completely out of place. Her fingers trembled as she adjusted the diamond bracelet on her wrist, the one Adrian's assistant said was part of her image. From below, Adrian watched her. His wheelchair was still, but his eyes moved slowly, studying her every step. She was elegance wrapped in fear. For the first time, his breath caught, not from pain but something he didn't want to name. "Ready?" he asked as she reached him. She gave a small, unsure smile. "No, but I'll pretend." "Good," he said dryly. "That's what this night is about." They entered the ballroom together. Cameras flashed instantly. The sound was deafening, like a storm of light and noise. Elena flinched, but Adrian's hand brushed hers for a moment. "Smile," he murmured under his breath. "You're Mrs. Steele now." Her heart skipped. That one touch, small and careful, felt more real than the entire marriage contract. The reporters circled them. "Mr. Steele, how does it feel to be married again?" Adrian's jaw tightened. "It feels efficient," he said flatly. Laughter rippled through the crowd. Elena forced a polite smile, hiding her discomfort. As the night went on, guests congratulated them, toasted them, analyzed them. Elena smiled at strangers and tried to look like she belonged. Adrian played his part perfectly, confident, untouchable, unreadable. But every time she looked at him, she saw something else. A flicker of pain behind his cold eyes. Halfway through dinner, a tall man in a gray suit approached them. His voice was loud and full of arrogance. "Adrian Steele," he said, clapping a hand on Adrian's shoulder. "Still alive and running your empire from that chair, I see." The table went silent. Elena froze. The insult hung in the air like smoke. Adrian didn't flinch. "Still speaking before thinking, I see," he replied calmly. The man smirked. "I just meant, it's good you've adjusted. Most men wouldn't have your courage. Or your money to hide behind." Laughter bubbled around the table, nervous and cruel. Elena's chest burned. She looked at Adrian. His eyes cold, his posture rigid, but his hand under the table trembled slightly. Without thinking, she stood. Her voice was clear and strong. "You know, Mr. Reeves," she said to the man, "some people don't need legs to stand taller than the rest." The entire room went silent. Reeves blinked, embarrassed. "Excuse me?" She smiled sweetly. "You heard me. My husband doesn't need to prove his worth to people who confuse arrogance with power." Whispers spread instantly. Cameras flashed again. Adrian stared at her, surprised. No one had ever defended him in public. Not his friends, not his business partners, not even his family. Reeves forced a laugh and raised his glass. Touché, Mrs. Steele. I see why you married her. Elena sat down again, her heart pounding. She whispered, Sorry, I shouldn't have. Adrian's voice was low but steady. Don't apologize. When she looked at him, his eyes were different. Softer, quieter. No one's ever done that for me, he added quietly. For a long moment, the world seemed to fade around them. Just her and him, two broken people pretending, but maybe not pretending anymore. Later, as the party ended, they retreated to the balcony overlooking the city. The air smelled of rain and champagne. You handled them well, Adrian said finally. I didn't do it for them, she replied. He turned his wheelchair toward her. Then why? Elena looked at him, the wind brushing her hair. Because you didn't deserve that. Adrian's expression softened. Barely noticeable, but real. You think you know what I deserve? I know what kindness looks like, she said simply. He stared at her for a long moment, the night city glowing behind him. Kindness is dangerous, Elena. It makes people believe in things that don't last. Like love? She asked quietly. He looked away. Exactly. Silence fell between them again. The lights below flickered like tiny stars. Elena leaned on the railing, watching the world. You know, she said softly, you keep pretending you don't feel anything, but every time someone hurts you, I can see it. Adrian turned back to her. You see too much. Maybe that's why you chose me, she said, meeting his gaze. Because you knew I'd see you anyway. For a moment, his control slipped. His eyes darkened, his jaw clenched. Careful, Elena. Don't mistake curiosity for connection. She smiled faintly. And don't mistake fear for strength. Adrian's lips parted as if to reply, but he said nothing. Instead, he reached for his wineglass. His hand trembled slightly, and she noticed it again. Before he could hide it, she gently placed her hand over his. Let me, she whispered, steadying it. He froze. That simple touch sent a rush of warmth through the cold walls he'd built inside himself. For the first time in years, Adrian Steele didn't feel like a man in a chair. He felt human again. He looked at her hand on his and whispered, You shouldn't look at me that way. Elena tilted her head. What way? Like this is real, he said softly. Because it's not. She didn't pull away. Maybe not yet. Adrian's eyes searched hers, torn between wanting to believe and knowing better. Far below, thunder rolled again across the sky, and inside Adrian's guarded heart, something small and dangerous began to move. Something that felt a lot like hope. The storm came without warning. Dark clouds swallowed the sky above the Steele mansion, and thunder rolled like an angry heartbeat. The city lights vanished behind the curtain of rain. Inside, Elena sat by the fire, sketching quietly. The house felt strange tonight. Too quiet, too heavy. Adrian had been in his study for hours, avoiding dinner again. She looked at the clock. Midnight. Worried. She stood and walked down the long hallway. The lights flickered once, twice, then went out. A sharp sound followed. A crash from the west wing. Adrian? She called, her voice echoing. No answer. Her heart pounded as she grabbed her phone for light and hurried toward the noise. The hallway felt endless in the dark, and thunder shook the windows as if the sky itself was breaking. When she reached his study, the door was half open. Inside, she found Adrian's wheelchair overturned near the shelves. Papers scattered like fallen leaves. Adrian! She cried, rushing in. He was on the floor, struggling to breathe, one hand pressed against a cut on his arm. His face was pale, his jaw tight. Elena! Don't, he tried to say, but she was already beside him, helping him sit up. Don't move me, he hissed, his voice shaking. You're hurt, she said firmly. I don't care what you think. I'm helping you. Her tone left no room for argument. She lifted the chair back upright with both hands. It was heavier than it looked, and carefully helped him into it. He was trembling, not from pain alone, but from something deeper. When the lights flickered back for a moment, She saw it clearly in his eyes, fear. "Are you okay?" she asked gently. He looked away. "I'm fine." But his breathing told another story. She touched his shoulder softly. "What happened?" He swallowed hard. "A shelf fell. I reached for something. I lost balance." Elena noticed the broken frame on the floor. Inside it was the same photo, the woman from before. The glass was shattered across her smiling face. She bent to pick it up, but Adrian's voice broke. "Don't touch that!" His sudden shout froze her. For the first time, she saw the anger and pain mixed together, raw and unguarded. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "I just wanted to help." Adrian closed his eyes, breathing hard. "You can't help with ghosts, Elena." Lightning flashed, throwing light on his face. He looked broken, not just in body but in soul. She spoke softly. "You loved her." His voice cracked. "I killed her." The words hit like thunder. Elena's eyes widened. "What do you mean?" He looked at her. No mask this time, no arrogance, only grief. "The night of the crash. We were arguing. She told me to stop the car, but I didn't. I thought I could handle it." His voice shook. "The brakes failed. I woke up in a hospital bed." She never woke up at all. Elena's throat tightened. The truth was heavier than any rumor. "I'm sorry," she whispered. Adrian gave a bitter laugh. "Everyone says that, but no one understands what it's like to open your eyes and realize you're still alive when the one you love isn't." A long silence filled the room, broken only by the sound of rain hitting the windows. Elena knelt beside his chair, looking up at him. "You didn't kill her, Adrian. It was an accident." He met her gaze sharply. "Accident or punishment, it doesn't matter. I still breathe, and she doesn't." She wanted to argue, but she could see the years of guilt carved into his eyes. So instead, she just reached for his hand. He froze. No one touched him like that anymore. Not with care. Not with warmth. "Elena," he said softly, his voice shaking. "Don't do this." "Do what?" she asked. "Make me remember what it's like to feel human." Her heart ached at the words. "You already are human, Adrian. You just forgot how to believe it." The power flickered again, and the mansion plunged back into darkness. Thunder roared above them. Adrian's breath quickened. "I hate storms," he muttered. "They sound like that night." Without thinking, Elena moved closer, wrapping her arms around him. "It's just rain," she whispered. "It can't hurt you." He stiffened at first, then slowly. His head rested against her shoulder. His heartbeat was uneven, like a broken rhythm trying to remember its song. They stayed like that until the storm outside softened. When the lights finally returned, Elena realized how close they were. His face inches from hers, his eyes reflecting pain and something else, something fragile. He whispered, almost against her skin, "You think I can't want you like this?" Her breath caught. He looked down, ashamed. "I shouldn't have said that." Elena's voice was soft but steady. "Then don't take it back." Their eyes locked. Time stopped. For the first time, the man behind the wheelchair wasn't a billionaire, wasn't broken. He was just Adrian. And for the first time, Elena didn't see pity. She saw something real. He looked away first, whispering, "You should go, before I ruin this too." She stood slowly, her heart racing. "You didn't ruin anything," she said. "You just showed me who you really are." When she left, Adrian sat in silence, staring at the photo frame on the floor. He picked up the picture, running his thumb across the broken glass. "I'm sorry," he whispered to the woman in the photo, "but she's not you." Days passed after the storm, but its memory stayed between them like a secret no one dared to touch. Elena still remembered the way Adrian had whispered those words. "You think I can't want you like this?" And the way his eyes had looked before guilt shut them again. Something had changed since that night. Adrian spoke softer now, laughed a little more, and sometimes watched her when he thought she wasn't looking. For the first time, the mansion didn't feel like a cage. Felt almost alive. But peace never lasts long in a house built on lies. That morning, Elena was in the garden arranging fresh flowers for the living room when a sleek black car stopped outside. A woman stepped out, tall, elegant, with sharp blue eyes and a smile that didn't reach them. "Can I help you?" Elena asked politely. The woman tilted her head. "You must be the new Mrs. Steele." Her voice dripped with sugar and venom. Elena frowned. "And you are?" "Veronica Hayes," the woman said smoothly. "Adrian's former fiancée." The name hit like a cold wave. Before Elena could respond, the woman brushed past her and entered the house as if she owned it. Inside, Adrian froze when he saw her. "Veronica," he said tightly, "you shouldn't be here." "Oh, Adrian," she said, her tone playful. "After everything we shared, that's how you greet me?" Elena stood near the doorway, uncertain. She could feel the tension like a wire ready to snap. Veronica's eyes flicked toward Elena, studying her from head to toe. "So this is your wife," she said. "How interesting." Adrian's jaw clenched. "Say what you came to say." Veronica smiled. "Fine. The world deserves to know the truth." She pulled out her phone and tapped the screen. A video began to play. Elena's blood went cold. It was a clip of her signing the marriage contract, the deal they had made. Her signature. Adrian's signature. The words, financial agreement. Everything. Veronica looked at her with triumph. "I wonder what the media will say when they learn your perfect marriage was bought like a business deal." Elena's throat went dry. "Where did you get that?" Veronica smirked. "You really think you can replace me? Adrian may have forgotten what love is, but I haven't forgotten how to destroy it." She turned to Adrian. "I told you, darling. You can't hide forever." Then she left, heels clicking like knives on marble. Silence. Only the sound of rain outside, faint but heavy. Adrian didn't look at Elena. He just stared at the blank wall. She took a step toward him. "Adrian, I swear I didn't." He cut her off sharply. "Don't." Her heart twisted. "You think I did this?" His voice was low, broken. "I don't know what to think anymore." Tears filled her eyes. "I've stood by you when no one else did. You think I'd sell you out?" He turned his wheelchair to face her, anger flashing in his gray eyes. "Everyone has a price, Elena. Don't act like you're different." She flinched. "That's not fair." "Fair." His voice rose. "Was it fair when I trusted someone once and she died because of me? Was it fair when you walked in here pretending this was all just business, only to make me believe you actually cared?" Elena's hands trembled. "I do care, Adrian. That's the problem. I care too much." He stared at her as if the words physically hurt him. "Then stop. I don't need your pity. I don't need your love." Her tears finally fell. "You're right," she whispered. "You don't need me. You just need someone to blame." She turned and walked away, her footsteps echoing in the empty halls. Hours later, the rain had stopped. Adrian sat alone in his study, the photograph of his late fiancée lying on the desk. The broken glass from the frame was still scattered around. He stared at it for a long time, then whispered, "Why do they always leave?" But deep down, he knew. This time, he was the one who pushed her away. In her small guest room, Elena packed her things slowly. Every dress, every pair of shoes, every piece of jewelry he had given her. It all felt heavy now, like memories she didn't want. When she reached the door, she looked back one last time. "This house saved my brother," she whispered. "But it broke me." She left quietly before sunrise. No driver, no goodbye. The next morning, Adrian wheeled into the living room and saw the vase of flowers she'd arranged days ago. They had started to wilt. Beside them lay a folded note. "I didn't come for money, Adrian. I came because you made me believe even broken hearts could still beat. If you ever remember what that feels like, you'll find me. Not as your lie, but as your truth. Elena." Adrian stared at the note until the ink blurred through his tears. He wanted to call her name, but his pride wouldn't let him. Instead, he turned his wheelchair toward the window, watching the sunrise he had never cared for before. For the first time in years, the light hurt his eyes because now he had something to lose again. The mansion felt like a tomb after Elena left. The silence wasn't peaceful anymore. It was heavy, cruel, and alive. Every sound reminded Adrian of her voice. Her laughter echoed in the halls, her scent lingered in the corners, and the empty chair across from him at breakfast mocked him more than any insult ever could. Days turned into weeks. He told himself she would come back. But she didn't. And every morning, when the sun touched the window, he found another reason to hate himself. One morning, his doctor came to visit, a man named Dr. Keller, kind-eyed but honest to a fault. "Your strength is fading, Adrian," Keller said gently. "If you don't continue your therapy, you'll lose even what movement you have left." Adrian gave a bitter smile. "I already lost everything that mattered." Keller sighed. "That woman, she changed you. You may not see it, but everyone else does. Before her, you didn't even look outside that window." Adrian's eyes hardened. "I don't need pity." "Then walk," Keller said quietly. Adrian looked up sharply. "What?" "Get up," the doctor repeated. "You always said you wanted to prove the world wrong. Do it for her or do it for yourself. But do it." Adrian laughed once, dryly. "You think I can just decide to walk?" "I think you can decide to fight," Keller said, standing. "You did it once when you built your empire. Why not for your own body?" He left the words hanging in the air like a challenge. That night, Adrian sat alone in the therapy room on the second floor, the same one he hadn't entered since the accident. Dust covered the machines. The mirror on the wall still bore a faint crack from the day he had thrown his cane in anger. He looked at his reflection, a man unrecognizable, tired, empty. And then, his eyes fell on a small folded paper taped to the corner of the mirror. It was Elena's handwriting. "You said you were finished, Adrian. But I saw the fire in you. You were never finished, you just forgot what you were fighting for." His throat tightened. He touched the paper like it was something fragile. And for the first time in 2 years, he whispered to himself, "No more excuses." The next morning began his quiet war. He woke before sunrise, wheeled himself into the therapy room, and stared at the parallel bars that mocked him every time. His hands gripped the bars tightly. His arms shook. Sweat ran down his face as he tried to pull himself up. For a second, nothing happened. His legs refused. His balance betrayed him. His muscles screamed. He fell hard. Pain shot through his body, but he didn't stop. He tried again, and again. By the third time, his palms were bleeding. By the fifth, his heart was pounding like thunder. By the 10th, he stood, trembling barely but standing. His reflection in the mirror looked back, shocked. He laughed through the tears that blurred his vision. "You see this, Elena?" he whispered. "I'm standing." But when he tried to take a step, he fell again. The crash echoed through the empty house. But this time he didn't curse or cry. He just smiled weakly. "Progress," he said to himself. "One day at a time." Weeks passed. The servants whispered about it. How the broken billionaire was training again. How they could hear the sound of his falls followed by laughter instead of anger. Every bruise became a badge. Every step a promise. At night, when pain kept him awake, he'd sit by the window and look out at the city lights. Somewhere out there, she was living her life. Away from him, away from his mess. But in his heart, she was still there, whispering don't give up every time he closed his eyes. One afternoon, Keller returned to check on him. He expected to find Adrian sitting as usual. Instead, he froze in the doorway. Adrian was standing, without help. His hands rested lightly on the bars, his legs trembling, but his back straight. Keller's eyes widened. "Adrian, how long have you been up?" 3 minutes, Adrian said through clenched teeth. "Longest 3 minutes of my life." The doctor smiled. "You did it." Adrian shook his head. "No, we did it. Me and her." Keller frowned slightly. "Elena." Adrian nodded, looking at the small paper still taped to the mirror. "She's not here, but she's the reason I'm still breathing." That night, he took his first full step without holding the bars. Then another. He fell again. But this time he laughed. When he managed 4 steps in a row, he whispered, "If I fall again, I'll still move forward. The following morning, he stood by the window, sunlight washing over his face. For the first time, the city didn't feel so far away. He picked up his phone, the one he hadn't touched since she left. His fingers hovered over her name for a long time. He wanted to call, to tell her everything, to tell her he stood for her. But instead, he typed a single message. You once said broken hearts can still beat. You were right. He didn't press send. Not yet. Instead, he whispered to himself, next time we meet, I won't be sitting. He looked down at his trembling legs and smiled through the tears. The man who once ruled empires from a chair was gone. This was Adrian Steele, the man who stood again. Winter faded, and with it, the shadows that had lived too long in Adrian Steele's mansion. He now walked, slow, unsteady, but proud. Every morning, he crossed the long hallway by himself. No wheelchair, no crutches. Each step felt like victory. Each breath felt like life. But even with all his progress, something was missing. The house still felt cold. The silence still hurt. And no matter how many steps he took, they all led him back to one truth. He had no one to walk toward. Elena was gone. One evening, Adrian stood by the window where she used to arrange flowers. Outside, the city lights glowed like tiny promises. He whispered, "You said I'd find you when I remembered how to feel. Maybe it's time." He opened his phone again, the same message still unsent. This time, he hit send. You once said broken hearts can still beat. You were right. He didn't expect a reply. He just wanted her to know. But a few hours later, his phone buzzed. Then come prove it. He froze, staring at the words. His heart kicked hard in his chest. She was in a small town 2 hours away, running an art shop she'd dreamed about. And without a second thought, Adrian grabbed his coat, stepped into his car, and drove. For the first time in years, he didn't care about control or pride or pain. He just wanted to see her. The journey was rough. His legs ached, and the steering wheel felt heavier than it should. But when he reached the quiet town, snow had just begun to fall, soft, white, peaceful. He parked in front of a little shop called the Silver Petal. Through the window, he saw her. Elena was helping a little girl paint on a canvas, laughing softly. Her hair was tied back, her hands covered in color. Adrian's chest tightened. He had forgotten what her smile looked like up close. He opened the door. The little bell above it chimed. Elena turned. For a moment, she didn't believe what she was seeing. He stood there, no wheelchair, no cane. Just him. A little weaker, a little older, but standing tall. Adrian, she whispered. He smiled faintly. I told you I'd find you when I learned to feel again. Her eyes filled with tears. You walked here. Drove, he said softly, taking a careful step toward her. But I walked inside. She laughed through her tears. You're impossible. Maybe, he said, but not finished. They stood there in silence, the world shrinking to just the two of them. Then Adrian said quietly, I've practiced this in my head 1,000 times. What to say, how to say it. Elena folded her arms, trying to hide her shaking hands. Then say it. He took another step forward. I told you once not to fall in love with me. I told myself the same, but I failed. Every day you were gone, I felt it more. Her voice broke. You hurt me, Adrian. I know, he said softly. I hurt you because I didn't think I deserved anything good. I thought being broken meant being unlovable. He paused. But you taught me something. You taught me that love isn't about being whole. It's about choosing to fight, even when you're not. A tear rolled down her cheek. Why now? Because now I can finally walk to you, he said quietly. He took one last step until he stood right in front of her. He reached out, his hands trembling slightly, and cupped her face. You think I can't want you like this? He whispered. His voice shook, raw and honest. Elena, I wanted you when I couldn't even move. I wanted you when I thought I'd never stand again. I wanted you because you made me believe I still could. Her tears fell freely now. And if I forgive you? He smiled, a real one this time, small but bright. Then I'll spend every day proving I deserved it. The little girl in the corner giggled quietly, breaking the silence. Elena laughed through her tears. "You're making a scene." "Good," he said. "Let them see." She touched his cheek gently. "You really stood again." "For you," he said simply. "For us." Elena leaned in, her forehead resting against his. "Then don't fall again." He chuckled softly. "If I do, just promise you'll catch me." "I always will," she whispered. And then, for the first time since the night of the storm, Adrian Steele let go of his past. The man who had built walls higher than his heart now found peace in a woman who had only ever wanted to see him free. They stood there, wrapped in the soft glow of the shop lights and falling snow, holding on to each other like two souls who finally made it home. Outside, the world moved on, cars, lights, people. But inside the silver petal, time stood still. Adrian looked into her eyes and said the words that once hurt him to speak, but now felt like salvation. "Maybe love isn't about what we can do," he said quietly. "Maybe it's about what we're willing to fight for." Elena smiled through her tears. "Then fight for me." He nodded. "Always." And when he kissed her, soft, slow, and trembling, it wasn't the kiss of a billionaire or a broken man. It was the kiss of someone reborn.